Hello. So here's our scene from the in-camera depth of field, and I'm just going to turn off um, that and then look at how we could set up a depth of field in post. So I'm just turning off this depth of field. So to do that, we need to include um, a an AOV of the Z depth for this um, render. So yeah, so Z, which just records the Z position, the distance from the camera on all the pixels. Um, yeah, and that's all we need. And I think having a cryptomat in your render is just so handy too. I don't even know if we're going to look at that in this demo, but it's just good to have. All right, so let's see. Increment and save. Let's just see what our render range is. Number.extension, 1-to-1. Merge AOVs. Otherwise, you're going to have lots of files. We're using EXR, so it's all going to be embedded. So let's render that. Okay, so now we're back over in After Effects. I'm about to import the frame, and we just want to make sure that we have our setup for ACEs ready to go. So I have my open color with ACES CG and my output sRGB, and then we have our profile sRGB linearize. All right, so now let's grab our frame, double click in, and I'm going to images, this one, drag it in here. All right, so now I'm going to duplicate this, call this Z. For Cryptomat, you use the Cryptomat. To get other channels, you use Extractor. So I'm setting that to Z, and then I'm just going to play with these numbers to get this into a range where it's, pretty much black where I want my depth of field to start and white where I want it to end. Something like that. All right. So After Effects is built in depth of field. So let's make a new adjustment layer. Depth of field is called lens blur. Camera lens blur. All right, so we're gonna plug in our Z after the effects and mask, and then we can control what's in focus by playing with this number. And yeah, there it is, right there. And we can control the aggressiveness of this effect with the blur radius. Yeah, I like making the blur around. You can't really see it here, but I think it looks a little bit nicer. So the other option you have, and this is is not free, but it's called Frishluft Depth of Field. And this is like really nice. It's much quicker than the Adobe effect. And it's just much easier to work with because you can just drag where you want it to go. And it looks better, it's faster, it's easier to work with. The only downside is that it is not All right, so that's depth of field in post.